YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Houston, we have a toilet problem. Shortly after Artemis 2 launched on its mission around the moon, the astronauts were concerned whether their only toilet was properly functioning.
We had a controller issue with the toilet when they spun it up, so we got to work through that. That's going to take maybe a few hours to troubleshoot.
Luckily, the problem with the only toilet on board was solved a few hours later. Before going to sleep, NASA astronaut Christina Cook checked with Houston to see if the toilet was safe to use.
You are good to use toilet all night.
But how do toilets work in space? In a video filmed for Nat Geo ahead of the Artemis 2 launch, Cook gave a tour inside the Orion crew capsule toilet.
You need handholds because you're just floating up all over the place.
But even with the out-of-this-world commode, these astronauts have a backup plan, as retired astronaut Clayton Anderson told CNN.
I'm guessing they're all wearing a MAG. NASA calls it a maximum absorbency garment. That's code word for diaper. And but I would caution everybody, just simply using a diaper as an adult is a lot more difficult than when we were tiny. And laying on your back and trying to fill that diaper while laying on your back is another training exercise you can go through at home with your friends and neighbors.
Again, I wanted to ask about the troubleshooting of the toilet that happened on that first day. Can you just explain to us what the issue was and how they fixed it? And on a priority scale, would you say this was a number one priority or a number two?
So when we had always planned to wet the toilet with some water that we had pulled out of the PWD, the potable water dispenser, and it turns out, I guess, we didn't put enough in, and so the pump was not fully wetted, and so it has automatic fault detection in that if it's not fully wetted, it'll shut itself down. So once we figured out that we didn't put enough water in, we put more in there, made sure that it was essentially primed, the pump was primed, and then the toilet came right back up.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. As if it wasn't bad enough that they're actually pretending to go into space, going back to the moon, even though the majority of the sheeple out there are so dumbed down and distracted by their technology, they don't even realize that they're not even attempting to go on the moon. They're just going around the moon. And none of them are asking questions as to why we haven't been back to the moon, since, of course, that has been heavily exposed since the creation of the internet, which is a tool for the government to use, but has also has had a lot of backfiring for them as far as people learning about secret societies and fake government psyops like space and NASA. So since the internet's come out, most people have realized that space is fake. And the moon landing itself is hysterical when you look at the shadows and you look at all the evidence that they aired very quickly on television back in the 60s that nobody was able to really pick apart because, well, you didn't have a VCR, you weren't able to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb, but now you actually can. But as if it wasn't bad enough, we have them flying to the moon on April Fool's Day, which is obviously the joke and the hoax is on the people who believe it. But the stories that are coming out aren't even about actually getting to the moon. They're talking about things like poopy, right? The main story so far that we've heard is how the toilet had a problem. And when we hear about the toilet having a problem, what we really should be discussing is if we're going to believe in their fake science that they've given us, just like the fake science they gave us during COVID, where people suddenly weren't immune once they were vaccinated. Because remember, science has always said if you get vaccinated, well, you're not going to get the measles, and you're not going to get the chicken pox. You're not going to get all these other things because you're vaccinated. You're immune to it. And when all of these suckers went and poisoned themselves and got vaccinated, the science suddenly changed. Instead of them saying, well, I'm immune to COVID, I don't care if you get a vaccine or not, they were told, well, you're not necessarily immune because these people who won't listen to us, who don't get vaccinated, you need to shame them because they could still get you sick. And instead of them going, wait, I thought the vaccine was supposed to make me immune, all of those sheeple fell in line, followed the government orders, and went along with the sudden change in science. But if we're going to believe in NASA science about gravity, how we see these guys floating supposedly in space, we should probably talk about the poopy problem that they're having. So the toilet had a problem, right? And of course, they're letting you know that NASA's toilet is a $30 million toilet. Yeah, is it made of gold bricks? I mean, what kind of toilet do we got here? Doesn't look so fancy. They tell you it's a vacuum that's pulling out the poopy and the tinkle. $30 million of your tax money has gone to a NASA toilet. Now, of course, we know that's a joke because we know they're not really in space and there's not really a toilet being used. We know all of this money goes towards laundering and, of course, illegal activities like drug trafficking, which is what the CIA does. They're the real cartel, as well as human trafficking, because that's what the CIA does. They're the real human traffickers who were involved in satanic ritual abuse and child sacrifice. But here are the headlines. Potty problems, be gone. We've got the space plumber, right? I mean, you have people talking to NASA, sitting in NASA headquarters, as you heard, asking if it was a number one or a number two problem. I mean, how people out there aren't looking at this and going, geez, the joke really is on us. The NASA's out there talking about poop. Is it a number one or a number two? We have a space plumber in the headlines. Well, maybe we should start addressing if gravity and all this stuff is real. Let's think about the concept of pooping or eating in space, right? I mean, think about eating in space. Oh, they're up there for 10 days. They got to eat, right? Well, what are they eating? Food's supposed to be floating around, isn't it? What about the toilet situation? Astronauts have a unique way of defecating in space and addressing mystery floaters. I mean, these are headlines in the national news. Mystery floaters and things like that, right? But of course, days before the poopy problem, we had CBS News and NBC and ABC national media outlets explaining to us how they actually poop in space in case somebody out there actually woke up and thought for a second about gravity and things floating and said, well, wait a minute. Even if they have a toilet and they sit on it and they take a dump, isn't the dump going to float right back up to their butt cheeks? Or if they get up off the seat, isn't the poopy going to float in the air? If they pee in a cup, isn't the pee going to float around? We've seen all the stuff they've shown us in the past with, little water pixels floating in the air, right? Well, they already put propaganda out there, of course, and they do this in advance because they know that they're going to put these stories out there, so they want to be able to, debunk it ahead of time. So that if you do hear a video like this, and you say, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, right, if all this is real, how are they actually pooping? How did they poop on the first Apollo mission when they supposedly walked on the moon? Because they tell us that they didn't have a toilet on there, right? How did they do that? Well, they're going to explain to you how this all works real fast. This is important news information, ladies and gentlemen, because, of course, they knew they were going to put a story out there about a broken toilet, so they wanted to tell you ahead of time and prepare you for potty jokes and things like that, because that's the mindset pretty much of society today. That's the level that they're thinking at, poopy and pee-pee. But at least with poopy and pee-pee, maybe we can get people to start thinking, because this guy is going to explain to you how the toilet works and even how they discard urine into space, but they make sure they keep the poopy in a can, then they can't smell it, of course, and they bring it back to Earth. But they don't really get into much detail about why it's not floating away, other than telling you that a vacuum supposedly is going up your rectum to suck out your fecal matter.
Before Sally Ride became the first American woman in space in 1983, NASA engineers unfamiliar with menstruation suggested packing her 100 tampons for a 7-day mission. Other members of the agency eventually deemed the amount excessive and reduced the amount of menstrual products she took, with the story later becoming a funny anecdote. Today, the science and tech behind using the restroom in space continues to evolve. CBS News senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve has a special look at the out-of-this-world facilities available to the crew.
I'm with Paul Bain. He oversees life support and crew systems on board the capsule. Well, I think one of the things everybody's wondering is, how does the bathroom work?
So the toilet in Orion is located in this bay here underneath the side hatch. And essentially, it works very similar principle to the shuttle toilet that we used to have on that vehicle. It works by a vacuum, pulls a suction against the crew member for urination and fecal matter, and essentially that is how we remove the waste from the crew.
Where does the waste go?
So we have a tank that will collect the urine, and we store that inside the vehicle for a little while, and then we vent it overboard. And then the fecal matter is actually collected in a can, and then they compress that down, put a cap on it. It has filters, so it doesn't smell, and we basically will end up bringing all that home with us.
Do they rock, paper, scissors for whose job that is?
I think they all they all take care of it because they have to. You know, you're all in it together.
What happens if the toilet stops working?
So we've actually talked about that a lot.
Because that would seem like a major problem.
It'd be an upsetting day, yes. And so we actually have gone through some scenarios on what do we do for that. So we created a special bag that the crew members can use to urinate into, and it allows it to drain the urine from the crew member, and then we can vent that bag overboard. The fecal matter, same principle, and you just go into the bag and collapse it up and put it into the can again.
Well, thank you. Back to you.
Chris Van Cleef, thank you. And now you know.
So that's news in 2026. We have national news talking about a toilet on space conveniently after that story comes out, and a couple media outlets reported on it, explaining the toilet. It's a big breakthrough that there's a toilet because the other missions didn't have toilets, right? And we'll get into what happened on the Apollo mission because it's so laughable that it's going to make you fall out of your chair, what they told us during the first Apollo mission in regards to going to the bathroom. But they put this stuff out in advance because they already knew, hey, one of the first stories after April Fool's, right, and April 2nd, we'll start talking about toilet malfunctions and things like that. We'll distract people from actually paying attention to whether or not gravity is real or whether or not we can actually get to the moon or whether or not we can actually walk on the moon. So we'll start talking about things that are on their level, like poop and pee-pee, right? But people really should be paying attention to clips about, like I'm going to show you right here before we get into Apollo, how most of these astronauts are caught, obviously, on green screen, doing flips. You could see their shirts getting tugged because, of course, they're on wires, like acrobats. Take a look at some of these actors, and you can't deny any of it because this is all from live feeds from ISS. This is all live feeds showing you these people in space. They're always trying to make it look like they're floating and flipping around, but if you pay close attention, you'll see that they're on wires, and in fact, even the clip with George Bush getting rolled through NASA headquarters, you'll see them practicing on a green screen, something that they aired live and told you was actually occurring in space. It's an utter joke.
This guy's doing a flip right here, and the guy next to him just reaches up and grabs a harness that's right on his hip.
I gotta pause it real quick. I'm gonna pause it because the funniest part to me, well, there's several funny parts, by the way. I don't know. But the lady in the background with the hair, it's like, did someone not think that like we've got to make her hair look like that, right? It's got to be standing up. Yeah. Dude, it is hard as a rock. It's not moving. It's like we must be in space. Look at her hair. Like, obviously, there's this thing called hairspray. Yeah. So here goes this guy doing a backflip, and then
gravity just gravity goes away. He must have found a pocket.
Yeah, gravity goes away, and he fell.
Yeah.
Or he got caught up in that harness he's wearing. Here comes the one with Senior.
Yeah.
In the background.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
And it's obviously a guy filming with a green tennis ball in front of a blue screen.
Right. Clearly, I mean, it's not even...
And then here's a clip of what they turned it into.
Here's this water particle. Yep.
Wow. This guy just disappears like, makes sense.
Yeah, I'm good to go. Hey, I gotta go. Yeah, what do we got back there? Another green screen?
And this guy
just the ones where they're doing the he's hanging his shirt, like you can see, like
it's not even good.
You can clearly see the artist. It's like if you take your hands right now and you grab your shirt and you just pull out.
Yeah.
Like it's this one's my favorite right here.
Green
the guy goes to reach for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a doofus.
But watch their thing at the end. I think this guy's always in it, man. He's the biggest clown. Yeah.
He's the worst. Like they got to be like, hey Bob, we got to get you out of here, bro. Like you're blowing our...
Look at this.
Let me reach up there. Oh wait. Oh, kung fu.
Here, I'm gonna pause it real quick. So
we have to. We got to expand.
So I imagine I imagine this guy in the green that's doing this flip, like when they're practicing, they're like, oh, this guy's got the shit, man. He nails every flip and you can never tell, right? So he's like the practice king of flips. But then whenever they go to film it, he gets nervous and he spoofs it up and grabs his harness. Because he is, he's Ray Finkel. Yeah.
I mean, we see these guys all the time, right? Their shirts are getting tugged. Sometimes we even see them holding a ball, and then they'll drop the ball and actually fall to the ground because somebody was, the puppeteer above wasn't holding on to the string. He must have put it down for a second because he was pulling another string that was flipping a guy upside down. I mean, the entire thing is completely laughable. And nothing is more laughable than the stuff here that they're talking about with the space plumber and the toilet breaking, but the toilet being fixed, and it's a miracle that our $30 million are helping these people poop in space, and that a vacuum is sucking it out of their ass, excuse my French. But let's look at the Apollo, the first mission, because this should make people not only laugh, but go, that sounds absolutely absurd. Okay, so if they didn't have a toilet on the first space mission, how did they go to the bathroom, right? Well, what did they do? They brought garbage bags to poop in? Well, that wouldn't work, right? Because poop would be floating all around space, probably getting in their faces, right? Well, this is according to AI. This is the answer that they give us. Apollo astronauts used a primitive hand-operated system to use the bathroom, consisting of adhesive plastic bags for solid waste and a vacuum tube for urine because there were no toilets in the command module or lunar module. Astronauts, including those on the first moon landing, were forced to seal and throw away some feces-filled bags on the moon to save weight for moon rocks. So they discarded their feces and their urine on the moon. Solid waste. Astronauts had to apply a bag with an adhesive brim to their buttocks. Okay? Think about that. So it's like, one of those things like you catch flies with in your kitchen or wherever, outside, if you have flies in the summer. Maybe you've all seen people, they hang the nasty thing from the roof and it catches flies. Pretty disgusting. But you're going to put that on your butt cheeks. So after defecating, they had to manually apply a germicide packet to the bag and then seal it, right? They're not really, is it adhesive? I mean, some of these things you can't even get a fly to stick on, let alone your feces, let alone what if it was liquid, right? What if they, assuming, the stuff that they tell us with space, everything is fake. They probably have a Taco Bell inside the space shuttle, so let's just say they had Taco Bell, or they had diarrhea, right? How are they going to get that to stick in the bag, right? Say they were like, I got to go to the bathroom, I got to go to number 2, and now came some liquid. What happens then? Oh, well, we're not going to go into detail about those kinds of things because it's gross. Well, the whole thing is obviously gross, but they're trying to explain it to you for a reason. Because if you use common sense, you start saying, none of this seems possible for you to go to the moon without a bathroom and then them to go to the moon now and then tell you that they're putting it in cans, going underneath into cans that are getting sealed by a machine, and then they're going to float pee into space, right? So after defecating, they had to manually apply the germicide packet to the bag, seal it, and knead the mixture to ensure it was blended to prevent gas buildup. Urine, a condom-like roll-on cuff attached to a vacuum hose. Then hose assembly was used for urinations, which was either stored for return or dumped overboard. And then they have privacy. There's no bathroom. So astronauts had to go in a small storage area under the couches for some privacy. Thankfully now we have a little Porto, little airplane-like bathroom sliding doors they showed you in the clip. And then look, lunar service. While wearing spacesuits during moonwalks, astronauts use a maximum absorbent garment, essentially a diaper, for waste. Well, you just heard the guy talk. Using a diaper, what? Well, if gravity's real, how is that even actually working, right? Would the gravity even allow it to come out of your butt? I don't know. How they expose and discard it again on the moon to save weight for returning astronauts, or for returning, and with the moon rocks, wink, wink, the astronauts left approximately 96 bags of urine, feces, and vomit on the lunar surface. I'm surprised it's not 66. Well, you got your 9 and your 6 anyway, right there, or 33. Leftovers in total, folks. 200,000 tons of materials, including human waste, were left behind in space. So they left their poop and their pee in space, supposedly. Didn't fling up in their face. It just floated around. It's perfectly normal. The things they tried to explain are so laughable that people honestly are so dumbed down that they just brush it off. Oh, okay, that's how they did it. That's how they did it. Without going, that sounds absurd. And even thinking about the notion of gluing something to your butt during the first Apollo mission to go to the bathroom. Or what they're claiming now. Oh, you could sit on the toilet, grab the handles. If you grab the handles, won't you still flip? Right? If you're holding on to handles and there's supposedly gravity, what about the weight underneath you? Wouldn't you need to tie your ankles down? Or put your feet under something that is heavily weighted so that you can actually sit? Because if you just put your hand on handles, your legs are supposedly going to swing with gravity, right? You could do a moonsault or a somersault like that guy was doing, right? And they go, oh, you just grab the handles and you sit and you push, and none of it's going to fly back in because we have a vacuum that's going to suck it out. And everyone goes, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, the joke is on everybody out there. That was a pre-done story. Okay, because they went out of their way beforehand to tell you about how astronauts crap, because people are going, well, how are they going to go to the bathroom? They're up there for 10 days. How are they going to shower? Because that's how the common sheeple thinks. Instead of going, is any of this real? Could they be green screening this? Could they be using AI? We see how advanced AI. Could they be doing any of that stuff and just duping us? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. But instead they go, well, we'll talk about these other things because it'll keep them distracted. Then we'll show them some pictures. They won't even think about AI. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, did you hear about the space plumber? That'll be the big story that they talk about. Well, the woman fixed the toilet. She's the space plumber. Instead of going, yeah, you think you're lying and duping us? I mean, we see the connections with Freemasonry have been exposed. You've seen the video clips there of all these guys on wires, 100% proof. The guy disappearing. I mean, how much green screen proof do you actually need? And those are just a few clips. Those are a couple of the ones I found personally hilarious. There's thousands of clips out there everyone has seen that shows how fake this stuff is. So they got you prepared ahead of time to talk about the toilets. They talk about toilets, in case you start thinking, how are they going to the bathroom up there? And then they immediately give you, oh, toilet malfunction. That's the big issue. Not a malfunction of, are they gonna die up there? No, the toilet went out. Right? Because we're green screen faking this and we're pretending that these people are actually traveling around the moon and coming back, and we're not explaining to the audience why they're not actually going on the moon. Right? That's the other big thing. Not explaining they're going, well, this is how they poop. This is how they pee. And everyone's like, oh, I'm fascinated. But what about, why aren't we going back and walking on the moon? Oh, well, we want to protect them. We're a weakened society now. We got everyone to be cupcakes, so we got to protect them. I was like, yeah, we got to protect them. Oh, we didn't have to protect them in the 60s when technology was supposedly not as advanced. We're talking about 60 years later plus, right? We're talking about, look at our phones. Look at all this crap that we have. This is just technology that's been released to us. Right? So they should, by so many different means, if we went back then and walked in the moon and golfed in the moon and all this ridiculous crap they claim to have done on the moon, you would say, well, we should be able to, we should be able to have, play beer pong on the moon, or they should be able to, do all this other ridiculous stuff. They should turn it into spring break on the moon, maybe, right? No, they can't get back yet. But they don't want you to think like that because they don't want to explain it to you without saying, well, it's to protect them. Right? Because we have, our crew, we got a black guy, we got a woman, we're making sure it's gender equality. We do all this other stuff to make you go, oh, yeah, it's great. We got a black man and a girl and a white guy and an Asian, and they're all going to the moon, Oh, yeah, all these Freemasons, all these members of Secret Society, Eastern Star, blah, 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 lying to your face. And nobody's going, yeah, maybe we should be thinking about why we can't go back to the moon and we're just going around the moon. But no. The main story everyone will think about was a story that was processed ahead of time because they know how people think. So they tell you about the potty, they prepare you for it. Oh, that's how they're going to poop. And then they go, oh my goodness, there's a malfunction in the toilet. What are they going to do? Oh, the space plumber fixed it. Yay. And that's the end of it until they show you some fake photographs and everybody's supposed to cheer and say, that's wonderful. Look at these beautiful new images. Yeah, these beautiful new AI images that they've been using for a long time. Just more advanced, at least to the public, in 2026. So it's comical. I mean, if April 1st wasn't enough for you, the fact that they did it on April Fool's Day, right? Again, the definition of April Fool's Day, because everyone's just like, well, April Fools, they're pulling a prank. Yeah, it's a custom to trick or deceive people on the first day of April, playing practical jokes, spreading humorous false stories, or, of course, creating hoaxes. So happy, again, continued April Fools, because we went from the Artemis launch on April Fools right into poopy and pee-pee level thinking where we had a pre-planned story about a toilet malfunction, and then we got one. And that's the thing that you're going to hear everybody repeat, right? Did you hear about the toilet? Did you hear about the woman fixing the space plumber? That's funny. That's funny, right? No, what's funny is how dumb everybody is to believe these stories and to believe that if they're pooping in space, that it wouldn't be floating around, or that the first astronauts put little bags with turds in it in space and let it float into the atmosphere. Oh, isn't that bad for the carbon footprint of space? Is that safe up there? Is that, what about the etiquette, right? Oh, that's disgusting, right? No. They just continue to hold up the largest middle finger you could possibly find. Andre the Giant's hand with the middle finger being held right in front of your face. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always. It's hard not to laugh. It's so absurd in the year 2026. Thanks again, everybody.